Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing baklava, Lebanese style baklava.
انت طحنتن لما
Yeah, tanyan, yeah. This is a Lebanese style baklava. What we have here is cashews that have been ground in the food processor. We've also ground some, we're going to do something a bit different this time. We've got here ground pistachios. This is probably the most simple recipe you'll ever find to make the world's best baklava. As you can see, here we go. We're going to put that in there. You get the crushed cashews if you can find them, because they'll be cheaper. Place them in the bowl, of course, and bring them to a fine grind. There's going to be And baklava is one of the oldest desserts ever made.
Yeah, very old.
Very old dessert. It dates back to biblical times, and quite possibly around the time of Jesus. Today we're using kilo pastry, one. Over here, this is the butter that will be used. We'll melt the butter and remove the salt if it's salted on top. You don't want the salt. But you can buy unsalted butter. Huh?
تشتري سمنة بتبقى من الشوب هاي بيقولوا لها ghee.
Ghee, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can use ghee.
Just you melt it, that's all.
We just melt it down. But what we'll do here, because this is a salted butter, we'll remove the salt that rises to the top. You'll see it white and fluffy. This is the beginnings, preparing the ingredients for the making of the baklava. Once we get started, you'll find it's rather quick and easy. Remarkably easy, in fact. I think anyone watching this will end up making this baklava recipe for sure. The most important thing is that you get the ingredient quantities correct. You've got to get your butter or ghee unsalted quantity correct when applying it to the ingredient, the overall product. We're using a tray about this size, which measures around about 35 centimetres by 25 centimetres. And excuse me. Keep your bench place clean. It won't take long. Once we get started, it'll happen very quickly. So you bring them to a boil. You don't want to boil them too much, but we do want to remove the salt off the top of the butter if you haven't used unsalted butter.
بس يداوب.
When it melts, the salt will rise to the top.
بيروح يضرب على الكعب.
Okay, so the chef is saying, my mum, the chef, is saying that once it cools, that white salt that's floating will drop to the bottom. Will drop to the bottom of the pan.
But you have to put the butter on slow heat. You see?
Put on low heat?
Look.
Yeah, okay, so low heat, yeah.
Yeah. Then, all that butter, the salt drown on the bottom.
When? When it cools? When it cools a little bit, it'll just drop. He won't really to salt.
You see? You can see.
Okay, so while it's actually boiling on low heat, it will drop.
We keep it on the low heat.
on low heat. So if you can watch, you can
And-
see the salt actually dropping now. It doesn't have to cool
Because
actually.
they had water with the salt.
Okay.
The water dropped down.
Okay, so once the water's gone, the salt will be heavier than the butter and go to the bottom of the pot.
If-
Then can be used. So you don't have to remove it.
إذا فضل نتفي if it's tight a little bit let's try now.
And if there's a little bit left over, you can strain it out. You can strain it out with a little strainer.
Strainer, not the plastic one, must be the steel one.
Okay, steel strainer,
Steel
yeah.
one. You can
And you can
move
just
that one
do
like
this
that
if
on the
you find that
spoon.
if it's not happening quick enough. Okay, so there we go. And so we remove the salt.
With the
And you
salt.
can reuse that salt if you want, in a dish. If you don't want to get rid of it and throw it away, but it's you could use it as a salt additive in your other dishes. This will be remarkably quick, mind you, once we get started. My mother, Sarah, has been making this dish ever since she was a little girl with her own mother. And it has been perfected over time. It's been perfected, okay? So we'll keep boiling it a little bit on low heat so it doesn't burn the butter. And then eventually all that salt will drop to
You
the
see
bottom.
that the original one you can use with now that ghee. Just you melt it and you put them out.
That's the unsalted version ghee. You can use that. And
You can
you won't
buy-
have to go through this salt removal
You
process.
can buy it from Lebanese delicatessen or
Yeah, most ethnic Middle Eastern delicatessens, Lebanese ones.
I can show you the tin.
Section. We've got tins as well. Now this is... Okay, so you can buy that one there, which is what she
And
recommends.
other one, Australian one, the ghee.
You can buy an Aussie version as well. Okay. There's some olives, by the way, that she's made from her own tree. We'll go into that another time. We're back to the butter. I'm sorry to bore everybody to tears, but this is a slow process at the beginning. But once you are finished, you will find this to be the most incredible dish you've ever made. It is high calorie, there's no doubt about that. The butter content is high, the sugar content is high, and we'll show you how to make the syrup soon. And the syrup is the trick to the whole dish. If you do the syrup incorrectly, you will then ruin the actual dish, because it has to absorb into the baklava properly and not sit on the outside. So it has to be the right, it's got to be boiled at the right temperature, and also to the right viscosity is the word used for fluids, for liquids that are thickening, is viscosity. Now the viscosity will need to be the right viscosity. Now we're preparing the sheets of phyllo pastry. On this occasion we're using two different types because we didn't have the one type. This is a good brand. As long as you use the very thin phyllo, don't use the thick phyllo. Okay, that's one there. And then we're using this other well-known Australian brand. You'll find that most Greek shops, delicatessens, or most Lebanese delicatessens, most ethnic Middle Eastern or Mediterranean delicatessens will have this. And this is how we prepare this. It's a very fine pastry. You can make it yourself, but because the purchased stuff is as good, if not sometimes better than what you make, because you can never get the consistency, the right thinness or the thickness to match what you really need. So it's quite good to buy. There's nothing wrong with buying it. You have to make everything. Not everything needs to be made in this dish. And if you are proficient in making pastries, such as phyllo, as you can see, it's very thin. It's almost cigarette, even thinner than cigarette paper. And here we go. What we're doing now is what we're doing now is preparing. So she'll be now putting. She's حطيتي البيستاشيوز معها.
راحت معه بس
طيب بيطلع صدقينا.
بس هلا ايش بخليك البقلاوه مقصوله هيك.
All right, well, so just want to put the pistachio. Many one row, my pistachios.
Alright.
So we'll make one row of. Just want to keep it original. This is the original. Was just straight out, no sugar applied to the mix. Just ground cashews and two leaves. 2 leaves.
Not 5.
5 leaves in the.
حطيت 3 من هايدي واثنين منها لان هاي قصيره.
All right, so 5 leaves with cashews within, and then rolled over like such. Okay, so she rolls it over like that,
hard.
like a sausage, and you basically apply pressure so that it doesn't open up and get air pockets. Okay, and then as you can see, there we go. It's placed in the pan like so, and that's it. It's almost like a cashew sausage roll. Now, we're not going to use the pistachios for the first couple. I want to do one with pistachio because I actually like it with pistachios. I do like pistachios in one of them, which is an alternative. And again, you can actually, in your own time, you can actually modify your baklava. It doesn't have to be original and true to the recipe. You can even put sultanas amongst your nuts.
No,
No?
not in the baqlawa.
Okay, she doesn't agree. But I feel that if you wish to do something creative, you can play around with it a little bit. You can put other types of nuts if you wish. Okay, so we fold over the edges like so. We fold over that edge, mainly to trap the mixture. And she will now begin.
I have to put.
Oh, we're going to do a pistachio run on this one, okay? So we put a bit of pistachio on this one, as you can see. This will bring up a nice taste. I actually like it. This is one of my variations. I like it with it. Often they sprinkle it on top a little bit. Okay, then she begins this very tight rolling technique. We roll, roll, roll. And she's using a pan that she's been using for many years, an aluminium one that fits, which is the same size of the. Okay, now she'll push it up against the other one, and effectively we've got 2 sausages in as such. So remember, it's 5 phyllo pastries, leaflets, and okay, so the butter has now stopped boiling over there. We're now applying more cashews. Now the cashews that you'll apply, the quantity will be
The cashew we put them for decoration on the top on the finish.
the pistachio.
Yeah.
The pistachio she prefers to use as decoration on top to add a bit of colour and a bit of garnish. But with this, apply about enough to be about as thick as 2 fingers or as twice the thickness of your thumb, so that when you roll it, you then get that type of roll. Again, you'll see this unfold further as we progress, and you'll be wondering what's the next step. Well, the next step will be to segment. We will be segmenting, partitioning the pieces in the tray. Okay, there we go. And there she puts in another one. She puts it up very firmly. So we've got 3. Probably get about 6 in there in that pan, maybe 7. She's using 3 on this one because this one's a bit shorter. This is a shorter leaf, and 2 of the other ones, which are the right size. It's a over the time you will work out a technique which involves, which not necessarily involves, but which marries in with your equipment. So her pan, her tray, and the baklava sheets she buys are exactly the same size. So that just makes it easier for her. So it's again, with sweets, it's a real an art in that and a science and almost like a chemistry in the sense that the quantities need to marry in together correctly. Otherwise, the finished product will not be what you want it to be, as nice as you want it to be. The syrup will need to be done properly as well. Now the butter, you'll see what happens next. The butter will then be applied to this, and again you need to use a certain amount of butter. How much butter بدنا نستعمل؟
هذه بدها half kilo butter.
Half kilo butter.
Clear, half kilo butter.
Clear melted butter without salt in a tray, like I said, of the size of 35 centimetres by 25 centimetres. We'll take half a kilo of butter. Well, you might think that is quite a lot of butter, but when you think that it'd be spread out over all those pieces, you're not eating that much butter. But again, it isn't necessarily a low-calorie dish. You'll have one piece with a coffee, and that'll be plenty for you, of course. But I guarantee you'll find it quite difficult to stay on that plan and stay eating only one piece, because you'll find that you need to eat more than one piece because they're so delicious. Okay, so let's recap. 5 leaflets of phyllo pastry. We fold the ends. We might not have enough phyllo, so therefore we might have to. Well, let's تعملين كلهم. عوزي 4. خلي واحدة نخلص. Okay, so now we're going to have to, fold over the ends, then begin this rolling process again, nice and tight. Yeah, and we might just be running out of phyllo. This could be nasty and have to go and get some more. Yeah? So it looks like we're going to have an intermission and go get more phyllo pastry. We've made a little bit of a mistake here, so it's okay. We will get it together. And once we do that right, again, this will be wonderful. It's a wonderful dessert. One that's often made around Easter in the Middle Eastern world, because Easter is a time of celebration and Christmas as well. Made by families in their own homes. It originated in the Middle East, of course, often thought to be Greek of origin, but not necessarily. I think it's of Turkish origin. أتروك عملاها هاي أما الجريك.
I think Turkish first.
Yeah, I think baklava is really a Turkish invention, but being taken up by the Greeks, the Lebanese, and all the other surrounding Middle Eastern.
But every country they make it.
But the
Greek make it different, not like us.
And the Greeks make it different. Obviously, they use walnuts. They use walnuts. They prepare it differently.
We use the cashew.
We use cashews. Every country uses the predominant nut in their country. There's a lot of cashews in Lebanon, hence they use a lot of cashews in their sweets. And there is walnut as well, of course, but Lebanon's a very hot place and cold in regions, and nuts do like cold environments, so they obviously grow in the mountains of Lebanon. But Turkey is the capital of all nuts, of course.
Nut and cashew.
And hence they make a lot of desserts using their nuts. Okay. Now there's obviously we've got 6 pieces there. بالله ما بيقصر اما تطلع
صينية فوق دي نص.
ما بتفوت واحد بس بدك لفتين. Okay, so we got هان بس بيروح 2 هان.
لا بيروح بيحط وحدة، ما بدي يحط وحدة 2 3 4 5 6 7 وحدة.
يا ملعب هو ده.
هايدي ما.
That's alright.
رقيقة.
هلا تكون رقيقة.
اسمعوا رزيح عني لا تصور تشيل فيني شيل وحدة من.
Okay, so effectively back to where this kitchen area here. We've got some homemade olives being prepared here and here, black ones and mixed coloured ones. Here we're back to the butter. The butter, of course. Now, does the butter have to be cool when we apply it, Mum?
Just, warm, hot, doesn't matter.
Yeah, we can apply the butter to the tray, warm or hot. It doesn't really matter, she says. So we will now begin making the syrup, of course, but I think she's already pre-made the syrup. There's a pre-made syrup, but we will explain how to do that properly. انت عملتي السكر معاي قمة؟ Oh, so we haven't pre-made it. Okay, so we'll have to make that. You can see us how we make that. Okay, we'll show you how to make the syrup, which is probably one of the most critical parts to this. Okay, so back here we're rolling and applying, and now we're reapplying. Okay, so keep your bench nice and tidy, of course. You will get a bit messy. It can be a bit messy because you're dealing with powders, or you're dealing with, granulated nuts. And now we're going to put that in. حطي لفت some pistachio of this one, I think. Put some pistachio of this one. Okay. Sorry about the movement of the camera. It can be annoying when watching. So now I'll apply some more cashews and we'll put some of this pistachio mix in as well. Okay, here we go. I hope that you can see how easy this is to do. You can see a different colour in the cashews that have been used. Well, that's because one has probably been from a different region, and we are using two different types here. Now we're going to put some pistachio, which I really find the combination tastes incredible. And this is one of my children's favourite dishes. My young daughter Erica loves baklava, or as we call it in Lebanese, we actually call it baklava. This is baklava. Yeah. Very fortunate to see this being made. There's never been videotaped before in our family, so we're doing it first timer. Okay, so now we've got a completion here. Now we've got, in this particular pan, if you've got 7 sausage like rolls, 500 grams of butter, 5 leaflets of phyllo per roll, using crushed cashews and crushed pistachio, if you wish, to go out of the tradition. We've got 500 grams of butter with the salt removed. We've got, now she begins the process of, what are you doing, Mum? What are you doing now?
Now we cut it before you put the butter.
All right, so before
you put them in the oven.
So before you put it in the oven, before you put in the butter, apply the butter, you will now begin the cutting process. So we cut it to size. Okay, now she'll begin doing that, of course, and then she does it in a triangulation type.
And you put your finger
She does,
to now how you cut it, the measurement, like that.
all right, so she says
On
use
your
the
first
finger.
one, and you go straight.
Notice how we've not used any sugar in the mix, in the ingredients. It's very basic. All the other heavier ingredients do come into play later. Okay. So you've got this, say, 45-degree cut across the pan. Is there anything else you'd like to say, Amma?
No, هلا إذا ما بعدين when you finish cutting you put butter.
Okay. 500 grams of that unsalted butter. If you do want the recipe for this, we may put it on our Facebook page, and we'll give you that Facebook page name and go-to address. If you want it in written form. But again, this is one of the most easy dishes to make, and also the most tasty and most incredibly addictive dessert made by the Lebanese, known as baklava, known as baklava in various parts of the world, most likely invented by the Turkish during their reign, their 400-year reign of
400 years ago.
Of the Middle East and parts of Europe. So it's obviously over 400-year-old dish. Now she goes over to her عشان تعملي هلا أمه.
هلا إذا بدنا ننظف إيده وش
Okay, so she's removing all the salt. Because you don't want the salt in there, it'll actually ruin the flavours. Okay, so she'll do this carefully. A bit time consuming. You're better off using butter without salt, but on this occasion it wasn't prepared, and we had to use salted butter, but we thought we'd use the salted butter and remove the salt. Ideally, you don't have. You can mix the step.
هاي أجيب butter ما يكون فيها salt. The ghee, the best one.
Yeah, so you just get that ghee, and you can skip this step. We hope you're enjoying this. If you've got any questions, please ask in the comments section of the YouTube video. We will be doing numerous videos of Middle Eastern, or more specifically Lebanese dishes. Very authentic, of course. Very delicious. And we will try and talk about the origins of these dishes. Because the Middle East is such a I don't know what the word is, cosmopolitan or region where many nations have conquered and brought dishes to and taken dishes out of, and the food has evolved over many hundreds of years. So back to this tray. As you can see now, a close-up of this tray, you can see how it's been divided. It's very important you do this so that the butter and the sugars do find their way in. Okay, now she's beginning. What are you doing, Mum? So you're pouring the butter in like so. A lot of you might be now thinking, wow, that's a lot of butter. But you'll find that it spreads out evenly, and it won't look like that when it's finished. It'll look completely different. We'll show you the finished product as well. Okay.
You have to cover it all.
You're going to give it a good coverage. Make sure you cover all the baklava. And it will absorb, as you'll see.
You see it?
And there's the remaining salt that she didn't take from the top, because it did fall to the bottom because it's heavier. As you can see, there you go. I actually don't mind that. You can cook eggs in that, it'd be beautiful. Very salty, but if you do like salty eggs, it's beautiful. Okay, there we go. And that's a few steps explained.
No.
Now she puts the oven on, preheated oven, or
Yeah, you have to heat it very hot.
so you got to heat the oven first before you put the baklava in. How much do you heat it up to the highest? Put it at the highest setting until it gets hot. Then lower it to.
I will not hit the first. It hit the high heat for 5 minutes. And after I put them on 180 degrees.
She said that you heard her say, she puts it on high heat for 5 minutes after she's heated the oven. So leave it on high for 5, and then after 5 minutes, drop the temperature to 180. And how long does it stay in there?
Depend. Half an hour, 40 minutes.
So
And
between-
you check up when they get golden brown. Now it's golden brown. They be ready.
Okay, so you wait till it's golden brown, and you then remove it. It usually takes about 30 minutes to 40 minutes. Okay. Makatatilan zaman.
No, listen.
A lot of us might be thinking there's quite a bit of butter there, but believe you me, it will not be. It's got to really get in, and the butter actually applies to the final, rigidness of the product. And again, you don't need a lot of it. It's one piece, maybe 2 pieces a day if you can.
Nice.
Okay, so that's it. And we're just waiting now to the oven.
We start make a syrup.
Okay, now we'll make the syrup. And the syrup is effectively sugar and water, with, I think, the application of a little bit of rose water if you wish. Some people don't like rose water, so you don't have to put rose water.
Yeah, you have to. Very important, nice smell, taste, nice smell.
Okay, so she says that you must put rose water. But I've known people not to put rose water, but that's okay. As far as she's concerned, authentically, you will use rose water. Again, she keeps her area clean. She cleans the pots and pans and makes sure there's no cross-contamination because it can alter the final product. I hope you're enjoying this video. I know it's been quite some time now, but it's the best we can do without having to edit. It's been some 30 minutes now, and we're beginning, so only 30 minutes it's taken to get to this stage. This stage has only taken 30 minutes. So the entire dish will probably take an hour to complete. So in 1 hour you've got ready to eat, well, once cooled, ready to eat baklava. It's got a bag of sugar, and here we use, how much sugar do we use on that?
We use 4 cups of sugar.
4 cups of sugar for a tray the size of 35 by 25.
And half cup water.
So 4 cups of sugar, half a cup of water. That is the quantities used to get the right syrup. Okay.
1.
Okay, so the half cup of water is already in there.
Yeah.
There's 1.
2.
2 cups of sugar. 3 cups of sugar. And 4 cups of sugar. It's not a precise science, but it's roughly.
About 1 spoon, the sauce.
Teaspoon?
Not
No,
teaspoon.
tablespoon.
That one.
1 tablespoon of lemon juice.
Juice.
Okay, so 1 tablespoon of lemon juice as well.
Tama sukkar yurja.
This prevents the sugar the sugar syrup from coagulating, becoming very gluggy, so to speak. It maintains a viscosity which is required for this dish. I don't think I used lemon last time when I did it. I don't think so. Maybe I did. I'm not too sure.
But I told you.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't pay attention, maybe. Okay, so here we go. Now we're just letting this, and then with the syrup, we effectively just let it boil.
Yeah, all right.
Do we stir it while it's boiling?
When they start, بيعملوا like a bubble on the top, the sugar,
Yeah.
they mean ready.
But do you stir it while, like you would stir custard to maintain consistency?
Yeah.
She does stir it? Oh, she does stir it. Okay, now she begins stirring it. So she's saying once you get a frothing of the sugar on top of the pan, That indicates that you're ready to now take it off the pan. So let's see this process take place. Okay, so it's a bit of a waiting game. How long does this take to occur, Omar? 5 minutes?
أنا أول مرة أنا هاير الوقت هلا دشبه.
Well, we're not. Well, let's say we'll see how long it takes. So it's already been 25 seconds to this point. We'll see exactly how long this takes. There's never really been timed, she says. We'll let that go for a minute. 20, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Maybe 20 minutes if not sure yet, but we'll keep a track of it. Again, keeping your kitchen area clean, keeping your cooking area tidy. There's our baklava, there's the chef, and there's the sugar. Okay, we'll come back shortly.